This is from the Daily Mail, so it's probably going to be bullshit. I've not read it yet, but let's take a look. Detective, I think they actually literally mean, by the way, a police officer who is a detective, not like a wannabe. Detective who complained about Met Police, so this is the police in London, event where trans activists branded gender-critical views twisted and warped. Loses tribunal. Good. Get fucked. Gender-critical views are twisted and they are warped. And I think that is the nicest possible thing you could say about them, because that is very mild. A gender-critical detective. God, that's just such an embarrassing description. Imagine having to introduce yourself at a party as... just sounds like gender-critical detective sounds like genital inspector. My goodness, embarrassing. Has lost an employment tribunal against the Met Police after claiming she felt like Daniel in the Lion's Den. My God, that is so embarrassing. They have such a ridiculous victim complex. You were at a work training or something, and a trans person was there, and they said gender critical people are horrible because they actually are, and they're trying to take away our freedom and human rights and are constantly calling us the most horrific things you've ever seen. And they're claiming just being told that made them feel like they were in the lion's den. What are you talking about? Absolutely nothing here is at stake for you at all, apart from your reputation, which you could recover by not being a horrible person. Detective Constable Melanie Newman accused the Met Police of being institutionally biased against people with gender-critical views. Oh no, they're institutionally biased against racist and homophobic people and people who think slavery is good. After the talks by a trans rights activist. Lisa Newman, who believes biological sex is immutable. Why have they put immutable in quotes? They should put biological sex in quotes. Was left offended by what he... Oh no. Gosh. So offensive to be accurately described. Was left offended by what Eva Echo said at the Met's Trans Day of Visibility event. Why the hell are you with that? Like, why would you be at the Trans Day of Visibility event and then getting offended? You were going to be offended at that anyway, you stupid fuck. Like... She obviously just went along to be offended by this and to like see if the trans person dared say anything in order to create a law. Like, this is probably all just like her looking for a lawsuit in the first place, which I have no evidence of and can't make a strong claim of, but I would be unsurprised if that was true. Like, why is a gender critical person going to a Trans Day of Visibility event? They want trans people to be eradicated from society. This isn't for you. Fuck off. Eva Echo. By the way, Eva's great, and there's a picture of her down here. She's been on this channel once before, maybe twice before. You should go check her out. She is good. Anyway, they have to say who was born male. Like, we don't really need that qualification. It's not really interesting. They just like to say it. But interestingly, they've said who was born male, but I'm not saying who is male. It's the Daily Mail here doing better than the Independent on describing trans people, even when they're trying to write this like hit piece article. Also told Scotland Yard that gender critical people are obsessed and show cult-like behaviour. Yes? How are you offended by that? Why would you be gender critical if you weren't obsessed with trans people? That's like the defining factor of a gender critical person. Like, what else even is there? Why would you have a ridiculous position like sex is binary and immutable if you weren't obsessed with trans people? No one's going to come to that position without first being obsessed with trans people. The activist has previously publicly accused Harry Potter author J.K. I'm glad that they clarified that J.K. Rowling was the Harry Potter author. Just shows the audience they're writing for. Of being on a mission to erase trans people. Yep, true. Okay, very uncontroversial. Training at the time says she was appalled by the talk. The talk was applauded, felt like the Met Police was discriminating by giving her a platform. Oh, here we go. Trans people shouldn't be given a platform. because them existing at all and having opinions is discrimination against gender critical people. That was the argument here. That was the whole point in this thing. They want trans people to be silenced and removed from society. Of course, this is what makes them gender critical. And this is why describing them as, like, the title is, like, complaining that gender critical views were described as twisted and warped. And here you are saying a trans person being allowed to talk on Trans Day of Visibility, an event which you didn't have to attend, is discrimination against you. And we're supposed to not come away thinking that your views are twisted and warped. My God. Just, like, clown world. That if these people didn't have, like, infinite money and patriarchy and thousands of years worth of prejudice all on their side against us, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. She took notes of what disturbed her. She turned up specifically for this. I don't know that as a fact, but I would be shocked if that wasn't the case. DC Melanie. What a fucking loser, my goodness. But the Employment Tribunal has dismissed her claims, ruling that it was not discriminatory to host the event or invite the speaker. The tribunal said she should not have been surprised at what she heard, given how divisive gender issues are. Also, how it was a trans person talking about trans people and the people who hate us. 100 officers attended the event in person, but attendance was not compulsory. Exactly. She didn't have to go. She went in order to be offended on purpose. That was the whole point in this. Of course it was. Increase awareness. The tribunal heard there was a perceived absence of any reference to issues relevant to the trans community, and the report followed the review. What are you talking about? That's all gender critical is. If trans people stopped existing, which would never happen, then gender critical people would stop existing. They would just get a new group of people to hate instead. In a talk, Eva said, those who oppose or raise concerns about trans women's access, trans women spelt wrong, access to female support and spaces are motivated by hate, with trans women being an easy target. True. What she said is true. Eva called for officers to challenge anti-trans language and said that there were no statistics to support a theory that trans women were sexual predators. Also true, like, maybe the journalist here could have fact-checked this and been like, oh, this is what she claimed, and also, it just happens to be true. Yeah, Daily Mail articles are always like this. They always, like, repeat the same thing over and over again, and I think it's because they expect you to give up reading at some point, and so they're just, like, they add in a little piece more information. I mean, it must be some kind of, like, way that they've decided to write to get you keeping, to keep you reading longer. If they say trans women are sexual predators, ask, why do you think that? Where are the stats? You'll quickly find there are no stats. Exactly, there aren't. Given the applause and positive... good. I love the idea of gender critical people slinking along to a trans event to try and prove how evil we are and trying to do some bullshit court case and raise a load of money. And then just seeing how normal people were just pleased to get the talk and are happy. I think gender critical people know that they hold minority views. They always go around claiming they don't, but they know. Stupid cultist. I was upset, however, my overwhelming feeling was of isolation and dread at the knowledge that it was down to me, a trainee detective on probation with no standing or support network, to do something about what had happened. Yeah, you're the only fucking loser there. You didn't have to attend. You don't have to do anything about this. It doesn't affect you at all. Literally nothing is at risk here for you in the slightest. Out of 54,000 people there, I felt no one else could speak to about it. Good. Eva Echo portrayed an extreme, one-sided, conspiratorial view of a complex... No, fuck off, did she? Everything she said there is factually true and, like, trivially true. She demonized people with a protected characteristic of gender-critical beliefs without challenge, presenting them as twisted and hateful. Yes, that's just exactly what gender-critical people are. Like, that's not even controversial. Just because you manage to, like, stack the courts with conservatives to rule that gender-critical, like, transphobic people are allowed to be transphobic to their heart's content without any pushback doesn't mean that you're suddenly now not a hate group. Like, come on. Ridiculous. They've like, everything gender critical is just constant appeals to authority. You see them doing it with the Supreme Court ruling. Like, okay, you've got the Supreme Court to rule against trans people's human rights, and now you're like shocked that trans people haven't rolled over and given up. Why would we ever? You can't authority your way out of us existing and wanting human rights. You can't authority your way into people not seeing you as hateful and twisted. And you can't authority your way into your kids liking you anymore or your spouse coming back. It's just not how the world works. Of course, they've got a gender critical network, a special branch of the police of people who hate trans people. Excellent. That's exactly what we needed in the police force. The police weren't hateful enough of trans people. We weren't discriminated against enough by the British police. That is excellent. Yeah, exactly. Gender critical people weren't invited because why? Like, if you were holding an event and you had a talk, like a speaker in talking about how, like, gay people are discriminated against, you wouldn't be like, oh, but what about all the poor innocent homophobic people who might show up to this talk by a gay person? Like, what if they're offended by a gay person having human rights and expressing their opinions? Just fuck off. It's just so absolutely ridiculous. I'm glad she lost. Stupid person. I'm sure they'll appeal it. They'll probably raise hundreds of thousands of pounds, and if it gets to the Supreme Court, they will probably win. But for now, they've lost. And by the way, the reason I say that isn't because their position is good. It's just because obviously the Supreme Court is corrupt and garbage. But yeah, there's, like, although the gender critical movement does have unlimited funds, they don't have unlimited manpower, and there's only so many court cases they will take on. A lot. I mean, these lawyers are absolutely raking it in. Some of these people must be so insanely rich from taking on all these bullshit gender critical cases.